Mr. Chairman, thank you for being here. Thank you for your services. I think I've said before, I believe you and your team probably saved the world economy during the pandemic economic meltdown when the whole world wanted dollars by establishing the currency swap line. So I thank you for that. You gave an interview, Mr. Chairman, on February 4th of this year to CBS, 60 Minutes, I think. Is that right?
Yep.
I ordered a transcript of that hearing, which I read. I learned a lot reading it. You were asked a question about inflation, and you asked a question about prices declining. And here was your response. I'd like to quote you, if that's okay. Quote, "So the prices of some things will decline, others will go up, but we don't expect to see a decline in the overall price level. That doesn't tend to happen in economies except in very negative circumstances." End quote. Did I quote you accurately?
I believe you did.
Okay. Later in the interview, you were asked about the national debt. Do you recall that?
I don't actually, but I'm sure that's right.
Okay. Well, at least according to the transcript, your answer was, and again, I'm quoting you, "In the long run, the United States is on an unsustainable fiscal path. The U.S. federal government's on an unsustainable fiscal path. And that just means that the debt is growing faster than the economy. So it is unsustainable." End quote. Do you remember saying that?
I've said that many times. I think that's uncontroversial.
Okay. Later in the interview, you said, I want to quote, "You know, I would just say this, integrity is priceless. And at the end, that's all you have. And we plan on keeping ours," end quote. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, it is.
Okay. That's why I want to ask you about the FDIC. Have you read the article in the Wall Street Journal entitled, quote, "Strip clubs, lewd photos, and a boozy hotel, the toxic atmosphere at bank regulator FDIC," end quote?
I think I did read that a couple months ago.
Did you read the article entitled, I quote again, "FDIC lawyer stayed on paid leave for weeks after child porn arrest," end quote?
I don't remember that one.
Okay, did you read the article entitled, also in the Wall Street Journal, quote, "FDIC chair, known for temper, ignored bad behavior in workplace," end quote?
Honestly, I don't. I read so much. I can't. I remember the broad story, but not particular stories.
Did you read the article in which a former female employee of the FDIC allegedly recalled her male colleagues saying women needed to use sex to get ahead at the FDIC?
I do not recall that. No.
Okay. Did you read the article in which a female risk management examiner during a lunch with a male examiner said she had become friendly with that examiner, and he complained to her about his marriage, allegedly, telling her he wasn't getting enough sex. And she allegedly said, quote, "Obviously, if I walked," or he allegedly said, "Obviously, if I walked into this office and you were naked, I'd fuck you right here," end quote?
I do not remember that, and I think I would.
Okay. Do you remember the article about Mr. Randall Ditch, a supervisory examiner in Denver, who allegedly was demoted in 2014 to a non-supervisory examiner position in Tulsa after having sex twice with a subordinate female employee and a number of other rule violations? In this article, it says Allegedly, Mr. Ditch had urged the woman to not, quote, be a pussy, close quote, and drink a shot of whiskey during work hours, the records show. Do you recall that?
I do not recollect
Okay.
that. No.
Here's my question. I could go on for a while.
Could go on, but you're not going to go on, so you've passed your 5 minutes. Do your question once.
Sir?
Senator Kennedy, your time's already expired. You can do one. You did 5 minutes, consumed the whole 5 minutes with your monologue of,
Well, you did 6 minutes. I timed it.
I asked my,
You did 6 minutes.
Senator Kennedy, for months, I have let you go way over the 5 minutes. You get your question,
But you did 6 minutes.
I chair this committee.
I understand. You still did 6 minutes. Check the record.
I'm going to order, you're going to be at 6 minutes and 15 seconds if you continue this argument,
Well,
or
that's
you're going to ask your question.
I'll ask my question. I just wanted the record to be clear, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in light of these allegations, if they're proven, how can the FDIC lead this charge for Basel in Game 3, which is going to turn the banking community upside down?
I don't know how I would make the connection to Basel III. I'll say it's deeply troubling things, obviously, but again, as your point was, if proven, and I think we have to decide Basel III on its merits, and we're not looking to the FDIC to lead this, by the way. We're looking at the Fed to do what the Fed thinks is right. That's what we're going to do. We don't look to, and they don't look to us to lead them.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Senator Butler is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Senator Butler is recognized.
Thank you so much, Chair and Chair Powell. Good to see you in person, and thanks for the time to talk. I want to pick up a little bit where Senator Smith was in relationship to housing affordability, and hopefully draw a little bit on the point that you were making about rents. It definitely is an important crisis in my state of California, and I know across the country, where, at least according to the California Department of Housing and Urban Development, renters in San Diego are paying about 50% of what is, they're spending more than 50% of what is considered affordable. And statewide, the majority of renters, more than 3 million households, are spending more than 30% towards rent. Nearly 1/3, more than 1 in 5 million households pay more than 50% of their income towards rent. And the Chicago Fed President Goolsbee even referred to housing as a missing piece of the puzzle in the Fed's path to lower inflation. So to the continued conversation, and I know a point that you've made that about how inflation has a disproportionate impact on lower income households who are focused on spending more of their monthly budgets on housing. How is the Fed's monetary policy impacting the supply of affordable rentals?
I don't know that we're affecting the supply of affordable housing. If you think of affordable housing as something that's connected to some sort of government program, that's not our bailiwick. I mean, clearly interest rates do affect the affordability of housing, though.
And there was a key point that you made in an earlier, I think, reference about and in your response to Senator Smith about the monetary policy and the calculation of rents. Can you just spend just briefly talk about that? I want to have one last issue I want to get to before I run out of time.
It's hard to talk about it briefly. It's actually very conceptually challenging to think about housing inflation. Do you include the costs of financing it? Do you include the sale prices? And the answer is we don't. We convert ownership into an imputed rent, and that's 2/3 of homes are owned. And then we actually measure rents, but leases only turn over once a year, so you look at market rents, and what's happening with newly signed leases may be very different from what was happening a year ago. So it's complicated, but the good thing is we understand all that, and we look through that. We look at housing services overall as one of the 3 important categories, along with non-housing services and goods inflation.
Thank you for that. I, in the line of affordability and housing, again, sort of very general, I think, to the broad monetary policy and state of our economy and unique to California. And I raised this with Secretary Yellen when she was here as well, the insurance gaps that are presenting themselves due to the impact of climate change. Where 1 in 5 residents in California live in areas of that risk flooding, and all 58 counties have a history of flood damage. And we are seeing more and more insurance providers, home insurance providers, actually withdrawing from the state. You and I had talked a little bit about this in our preparation for today's conversation. Can you talk to me about or share with us how it is or what you think the impact might be of this sort of protection gap in insurance coverage on the overall stability of financial institutions in the broader economy?
So it is clear that insurance of various different kinds, housing insurance, but also automobile insurance and things like that, that's been a significant source of inflation over the last few years. And it's to do with a million different factors. It's nothing that we control from a regulatory or supervisory standpoint. In the longer term, companies are withdrawing from writing insurance in some coastal areas, and you got to think 10 years from now, how are you going to get housing insurance? And maybe the government will have to step in, but it's a significant issue.